Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X research and professional physicist. And today I'd like to bring to you another one of my articles. This one is entitled Huge Planet X Star in the Inner Solar System. Now the Planet X system has been invading the solar system for at least 170 years, as this seems to be when the dust debris started entering the atmosphere and leading to the appearance of noctilucent clouds, which were never observed before 1850. About 50 years later, sprites started being observed, and these are now very common, indicating that increasing amounts of this debris is entering the Earth's atmosphere. And you may look at Article 320 entitled Planet X Debris Incoming, Sprites and Earthquakes. There is also evidence that small Planet X objects, which are most likely dead planets and moons belonging to the system, are found in the Sun's corona and interact with Earth. In addition, the stellar cores share their outer layers and thus create debris in various sizes, from dust-sized particles to pieces that may be as large as Earth. Now, for more information on that, you may look at Article 319 entitled Planet X System, Planets, Moons, and Debris. But in this system, there are also some extremely large objects which must have once been living stars. And this is one of these objects. It was caught in a stereo A quarter image from 2017, September of 2017. And it was caught within CME materials. You can see coronal plasma going out, draping across the object. So the object is very close to the Sun, and I first estimated it to be at least 3 times the size of the Sun, but closer analysis revealed that it was actually at least 4 times the size of the Sun. This is indeed a very, very large object. Now, stellar cores are dead or energy-depleted celestial objects. The main difference between planets and stars seems to be size, as they all have solid dense cores. They absorb energy from the Sun, which indicates that they are energy-depleted. They do not respond to gravity as normal solar system objects do, which indicates that gravity is associated to energy. This means that as a celestial object's energy decreases, its ability to attract its own matter decreases, which causes it to expand and shed its outer layers. This means that the objects increase in size and shed their outer layers until all that is left is the core of the original object. However, the original core undergoes expansion as a result of this loss in gravity due to energy depletion. And this is the blue stellar core, which was photographed through a telescope by Scott Sion. And the blue surface seems to be covered in grooves, but on such a large object, these have to be fissures. And these have to be fissures in a very, very hard or dense surface due to expansion. You may look at Article 286 entitled Planet X is Blue, the first stellar core. From the number of fissures, it can be estimated that the object may have expanded its surface area to about twice as large as it originally was. However, the material may have had enough elasticity for some expansion to have occurred before fissuring occurred, which may have allowed expansion by another factor of 2 to 2.5. So in total, the surface area of the core would have expanded by a factor of 4 to 5, which would indicate that its radius must have increased by a factor of 2 to 2.25. And this is because surface area, an equation for surface area is 4 pi r squared. So surface area is proportional to the radius squared. So if we have the surface area increasing by a factor of 4, then the radius would have increased by a factor of square root 4. Or the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of 5 is about 2.25. Now, the core of a celestial object is usually only 20% of the size of the whole object. So the Earth's solid inner core has a radius which is about 20% of the planet's radius. So a stellar core, once it has shed all its layers of materials, the blue stellar core seems to have done, and expanded as much as the blue stellar core seems to have done, would be about 40 to 45% or nearly 50% the size of the original object. So the blue stellar core, which seems to be 3.3 times the size of Jupiter, would have once been a star with twice that radius, or 6.6 times the radius of Jupiter, and therefore about 70% of the size of the Sun, since the Sun is about 10 times larger than Jupiter. But the stellar core in figure 1 would have once been a star 8 times the size of the Sun. And with just that particular piece of evidence, it should become clear that accepted theory regarding how stars die is completely wrong, because a star with 8 times the radius of the Sun as a main sequence star should have become a black hole at the end of its aging process. Furthermore, there are even larger stellar cores or Planet X stars in the inner solar system. And in this is a stereo AHI1 image, this is a stereo AHI1 trim image, and the object appears in both images. And I estimated this object's size to be at least 7 times larger than the Sun. You may look at article 259 entitled Large Planet X Object and Debris in the Inner Solar System. Now the bright dots seen here in front of the object indicate that a huge amount of stellar core debris was in space between the stellar core and the detector. These objects are not transparent. These are not stars. These are the debris that are filling space, the inner solar system, and come from the outer layers of these objects. And we could see that even with the blue stellar core, it was shedding this material that was making up its stripes. You can see a lot of this material floating around. It's very low in energy, so it doesn't respond to gravity, so it just floats around in space, not even attracted to the Sun that is right here. So this is debris. These dots are actually debris. But now there seems to be some evidence that there are Planet X stars of this size and even larger than this one. And this is one of these images that shows this evidence, and this image was sent to me by Owen Steiger. And as you can see, this is a LASCO C2 image from 2014, and the Sun appears to be having a strong reaction to the presence of this very large object, suggesting that the object is very close to the Sun. You can see that this very bright plasma that's issuing out of the Sun, which obviously is going somewhat wild because of the presence of this object, and some of it is actually seems to be in front of this object. You can see here covering the edge of the object. So we know that this object is very, very close to the Sun. Now the Sun seems to be reacting to its presence by issuing a large amount of extremely bright plasma in its direction, and some of this plasma can be seen along the edge of the object, indicating that it must be very close to the Sun. The object is obviously several times larger than the Sun, and the fact that it is so close to the Sun and the solar system has not been destroyed is an indication that it does not respond to gravity like normal solar system objects do, and must therefore be a member of the Planet X system of stellar cores. And you may look at article 210 entitled Stellar Core Gravity, tidal, and G is not constant for more details. These objects are dead or energy depleted stars and planets. The size of this object implies that it was once a star. Since the object appears to be so close to the Sun, its size may be estimated by doing a size comparison. And this is done here. So the blue circle coincides with the curvature of the object. The yellow circle is the same size as the white circle that appears on the occulter, which indicates the Sun size. And we need at least 7 of these along the object's diameter. So the object is at least 7 times larger than the sun. Now the object appears to be about 7 times larger than the sun and may therefore be the same size as the object seen in the stereo A HI1 and HI1 SRAM images, which was shown in figure 3 above. But an even larger stellar core appears in this image, and this is a Core 2 image from September 7, 2017, showing a very large object eclipsing the sun. This object seems to have a piece cut out of it. Light seems to come from the edge. As you can see, the edge is perfectly edged. This red edge or light, it's not as bright as this white light or white part would seem to indicate, but there's definitely red light coming from the edge of the object. So this means that this is the edge of a solid object. So light seems to come from the edge of the piece that seems to be missing from the object, indicating that this is the edge of a solid object, and behind it there is only darkness. This darkness seen through this hole. And so the edge emits light that is not as bright as the brightest parts of the object, indicated by this white part here. The bright spots in the image we know by now are not stars, but either stellar core debris or light emitted from the surface of the huge, very old star stellar core. Now the fact that light is emitted from the edge of the object around the piece that appears to be missing, and it is dark inside the hole, suggests that if the outer edge of the object was visible, we would see darkness beyond it, and thus that the outer edge of this object is actually beyond the edge of the image. The white part indicating bright light emission seems to be coming from the object and not from the sun. Now the object can only be a stellar core, one of the low energy objects belonging to the Planet X system, which as a result of their energy depleted state do not respond to gravity like normal solar system objects. These objects are attracted to the sun and draw energy from the sun, acquiring an atmosphere or solar corona, which they draw from the sun and from which they then emit light. However, since the energy they gain comes from the sun, it is not possible for these objects to become brighter than the sun. So the object is obviously emitting light, but since this cannot be brighter than the light emitted by the sun, it is likely that it is in front of the sun and eclipsing the sun. However, light emitted by the sun should have been visible through the hole in the object, but there is only darkness there, which suggests that the sun has gone dark, most likely as a result of the huge stellar core's closeness. The sun has been going dark during at least the STO eclipse season, which is not an eclipse, but the sun stopping to emit light from its atmosphere. The fact that there was darkness over Russia for 3 hours recently indicates that the sun may be off for much longer than 3 hours per day now, because the chance that the sun simulation failure coincided with the sun going dark for 3 hours is low. So most likely the sun is now dark for many hours per day, if not dark most of the time. If the sun does turn on, it will most likely be very dim. You may look at article 291 entitled "The Sun Disappears, Day Turns into Night" for more details. Now these objects, especially the larger ones, once they arrive in the sun's corona, do not seem to move very far from the sun, and it is therefore likely that this extremely large object is very close to the sun. The fact that the sun appears to have gone dark in this image, as no light seems to be coming from the corona, which can be seen through the hole in the object, also indicates that the object must be very close to the sun, and the sun has probably reacted by going dark, as it also does during the STO eclipse season. Since the object is so close to the sun, we can estimate its size from the sun's size, indicated by the white circle on the occulter. And so this is done here, the white circle. So I drew these yellow circles in the same size, about the same size as the occulter. And then I noticed that I needed at least 14.5 of them to draw the object's diameter. So this object is at least 14.5 times the size of the sun. Now, this would be the size of the occulter. As you can see, this would be covering just this edge here of the object, so we can see where the occulter's edge is supposed to be. So I drew the circle in the size of the occulter. And then we can see that these red light emissions, these bright spots here, cannot be coming from the sun. As you can see, there's a white spot there, and so this would be about the size of the occulter, and these do not come right up to the occulter. So these are most likely emissions from the object itself. These are not from the sun. And so, and this object seems to be about 14.5 times larger than the sun. So the sun, this means that as a main sequence star, as a living star, this object would have been at least 29 times larger than the sun. This object may therefore be the largest star stellar core in the Planet X system of stellar cores. These stellar cores rejuvenate by drawing energy from the sun. This increases the amount of photon energy in what is left of its particles, which is the original core of the object, and they acquire new atmosphere from the sun's corona and regain the ability to emit light from that new atmosphere. However, they do not have the ability to generate their own energy in the core through radioactive decay like other celestial objects, and so remain dependent on the sun as their source of energy. This means that the sun's core is generating energy for itself as well as for all these extra stars. It should therefore not be surprising that the sun is dying, as it will soon run low on energy as well and will become dark and eventually turn into a dead star or stellar core as well. Again, why did the star not turn into a black hole? Because stars do not turn into black holes at the end of their lifetimes. They turn into stellar cores. Gravitational collapse does not occur. In fact, just the opposite to gravitational collapse occurs. Instead of a star ending up as a black hole with infinite gravity, a star ends up as just the core of the original star with a radius of about half the original radius of the star and with zero gravity. Now, it is interesting that the shape of the piece that is missing from this object is exactly the same as the shape of the digital occulter in the stereo A, HI2 and HI2 SREM images. One of these images, in which Scott Sion recently captured an object, is shown below. And he captured this perfectly circular outline, which of course indicates the presence of an object there. And as you can see, here is the digital occulter. This is not part of the spacecraft because, as has been suggested, because light can often be seen through it, as shown in this image. As you can see, light seen through that part of the image. And this means that this is a digital occulter and light emission through it is possible. Now, so we also, now the spherical object indicated here is most likely in front of this object. So this indicates that what we are actually looking at is that huge stellar core, and this occulter has been added in order to hide the fact that we would most likely just see darkness through the hole and would realize that there's an object there. So the occulter is, as I said, not part of the spacecraft, and because we see light through it, the fact that the occulter is in the strange shape, which is trapezium shaped, which happens to coincide with the shape of the hole in the huge stellar core, suggests that we may actually be seeing, as I mentioned, the surface of that huge stellar core, and that the white part of the image is an ejection. As you can see, that white part is an ejection from the surface of this huge old star. The spherical object indicated is most likely in front of it, and the known planets are most likely added to the image. So in conclusion, there are several huge Planet X stars or stellar cores in the solar system. The largest appear to be at least 14.5 times larger than the Sun. The stereo HI2 detector seems to be permanently pointing at the largest of these objects in the solar system, to the point that a digital occulter has been added to the images so that the trapezium-shaped hole in the object does not give away the fact that this is actually a huge solid object, a Planet X star, close to the center of the solar system. The presence of this dead star in the inner solar system indicates that black holes do not exist. The death of a star results in an object with extremely low gravity. And these are the references. This is Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X physicist. Thank you for watching.